everybody, and welcome to Red Wings Daily, presented to you by Fan Arch. I'm your host, Kirk MckNight, coming to you from the Pacific Northwest, some 2,454 miles from Little Caesars Arena, a one-day, 10-hour drive. If I were to leave right now, get in my car, I wouldn't make it by the time the Islanders game started, but depending on how many times I got snacks or meals, or how many stops I had at Buc-ee's along the way, I might make it for the game Saturday against the Blue Jackets. The Red Wings have 4 of the next 5 games at Little Caesars Arena. The first 2, like I already mentioned, are the Islanders and Blue Jackets. The first time the Wings faced the Islanders was not the prettiest of games. In fact, they lost 7-2. Might actually be their most lopsided loss of the season so far. So they're looking to get a little bit of a payback or some redemption from that one tonight against the Islanders. And then coming in on Saturday are the Blue Jackets, 10-8-2 on the season. Red Wings haven't faced them yet, so we'll have to see about that. These are actually not bad records. Going on the road after those 2 games, though, the Red Wings will have to go travel to New Jersey and take on the Devils, who are 13-5-1 and are looking pretty good atop that division over there. Luckily, the Red Wings will be able to come home for another 2 games before going back on the road. Wednesday will be the first of those 2 games against Nashville. Pretty disappointing season yet again for the Predators. Everybody thought going into last season that with Nashville spending as much as they did to get players like Marchessault and Stamkos, they were pretty stymied by the fact that the Predators were just not really clicking and getting it together throughout the season and had a pretty abysmal year. And so far they're 6-10-4, so they're not showing any signs of improvement, even with those players, coming to their own and really getting a little bit more used to each other in the lineup. You kind of feel bad for them, but if that just equals another 2 points for the Red Wings on Wednesday, works for me. As of right now, the Wings are atop the Atlantic Division with 2 games in hand over Boston, who lost against Anaheim in regulation. So good for the Red Wings to have those 2 games in hand and still be on top and still have that 1-point advantage over the Bruins. But they'll conclude that little 4 out of 5 home games against Tampa Bay the day after Thanksgiving. Now, the Red Wings already beat Tampa Bay 2-1. It was an overtime win. I believe that was the game in which Kane got injured, had that upper body injury that sidelined him for about 9 games. So, but also one thing to think about was the fact that the Lightning were pretty floundering, I guess you would say would be the word. They were pretty bad and off to a pretty abysmal start. So they've obviously turned things around and have kind of climbed their way back up the ladder there, and it'll be a different team for sure. Hopefully it'll still be the same result with the Wings on top. Now, I am a baseball fan as well as a hockey fan, and I know that sometimes when there's a rain out and a rain delay that the broadcasters really have nothing to call, and so what they'll do is the production crews will throw in old tape and show a game, perhaps a better time for the team. And so without having a game having taken place last night and being in between those and having the day off for the Red Wings, I like to call this segment Throwback Thursday, in which I will take a moment in the Wings history and reflect on it a little bit. Now, my favorite moment of all time for the Wings would have to be March 26, 1997, and I think that's what many Red Wings fans' favorite moment would be as well, also known as Bloody Wednesday. Now, obviously, this may be just regurgitation for some of you guys. I already know this history. Why are you telling me this? Everybody knows this. I think it's a real privilege to be able to retell some of these stories and to be able to introduce people to the raw emotion and raw hatred that the Red Wings and the Avalanche had for each other in the mid-90s to early 2000s. To me, it was the greatest rivalry in all of major sports over the last 30 or 40 years, and that's including Red Sox-Yankees. The Wings and Avalanche, over a 7-year period, had 5 cups between the two of them. And 5 of those times during the playoffs, they had to face each other. 3 times in the Western Conference Finals. So pretty much the road to the Cup final, to the victory, to the ultimate glory, usually had to go through one city or the next. in '96, the Red Wings, having had such a record season and having this team that looked to be just running away with everything, basically came to a screeching halt against the Avalanche. And the Avalanche had just moved from Quebec, and they had acquired Patrick Roy. They had future Hall of Famers, Joe Sakic, Peter Forsberg, Claude Lemieux. I mean, you name it, this team had it. They were stacked. The Red Wings were stacked too. Between those two lineups, you had just almost about a dozen future Hall of Famers. In fact, the Red Wings, in that game between the Red Wings and the Avalanche on March 26th, there was 3 fights that involved on each side a future Hall of Famer. So the ultimate part of this backstory is the fact that during the '96 Western Conference Final, Game 6, Red Wings, basically the season's coming to an end. The Avalanche, Claude Lemieux, checked Chris Draper into the boards, broke his jaw. He had to have it wired shut. And, it was kind of like one of those pouring salt into the wound kind of moments. Lemieux had not played against the Red Wings in the 3 meetings that followed. And March 26 was the first time that Lemieux was back in action. And he was a marked man. I mean, in The Voices of Hockey, my book, you got 2 chapters where I have 5 different broadcasters talking about the blood feud and what had happened prior to that game on March 26th when the Avalanche came into town. The police had to encircle the hotel. I mean, there was no in and out kind of thing. Like, this was high security things because who knows what kind of lengths people would have gone to get to Lemieux. They had printouts in the city of him, like wanted, dead or alive, and with his face on it. So when the game happened and Lemieux is out there on the ice, what really kind of started it was a fight between Igor Larionov and Peter Forsberg. Forsberg checked Larionov and gave him a little punch to the face, and Larionov was not taking that, and they started to scuffle. And of course, other fights kind of broke out, and all of a sudden, here's Claude Lemieux turning, and Darren McCarty just turns and clocks him and knocks him to the ground and just starts pummeling him. Crowd is going crazy. This is the moment that they have been waiting for, 10 months in the making. Claude Lemieux getting his, and coming from the crease, while seeing what's going on, starts to skate out of his crease and up the ice. So I already said 1 pair of future Hall of Famers in Forsberg and Larionov. Now here comes the second pair. So Waz coming up. Brendan Shanahan intercepts him, basically just like, I want to say spear tackles him, just collars him, pulls him down. Adam Foote's right there in the middle of all that too. So we got a tussle there, and there's 3 Hall of Famers right there. Out of the Red Wings crease, future Hall of Famer Mike Vernon skates out to mid-ice, and there is Patrick Roy and Mike Vernon having themselves a little battle. It's the cover of The Voices of Hockey right there. Those two just duking it out. And there you have it, 3 or 4 matchups of future Hall of Famers on Bloody Wednesday. It was the game that a lot of Red Wings fans will look back to as being the turning point of that season and being the thing that really got them over the hump and put them on that Stanley Cup run where they won for the first time in 42 years. So obviously, when you ask most Red Wing fans, a lot of the times they're going to have that response. What's your favorite moment in Red Wings history? A lot of them will say March 26, 1997. This has been Throwback Thursday, and to me, quite a privilege to be able to talk about it because Ken Daniels, and Paul Woods all talked to me about the rivalry and the blood feud. Ken was there. Ken Cal. I shouldn't say Ken as if there's not 2, but Ken Cal was there that night. Ken Daniels didn't come to the Red Wings until the season after. So Ken was there from ground zero when that rivalry really started and was able to see firsthand everything that unraveled that night. And he said, it was his most memorable game as a broadcaster, and it was that moment that really got them over the hump. So that, to me, is a very hard moment to top in Red Wings history. And that's been Throwback Thursday. We'll see you next time for another one of those. But in the meantime, let's transition back to the Red Wings of today. And we're going to do a player spotlight. And today's player spotlight is going to be on Dylan Larkin, the captain himself. Now, Larkin has had points in 5 straight games, and he started the season with points in 8 straight. He's at 12 goals and 12 assists. He leads the team in points, just one over Alex DeBrincat, and he has 3 power play goals. One very important factor to note is in the Red Wings win against the Kraken on Tuesday, Larkin scored his 600th point. So it was a milestone night for him. He's the captain. He's been there. He was there on the 25th consecutive season making the playoffs. So his rookie year, he actually did taste the playoffs. And unfortunately, the 9 seasons since, the Red Wings have not been in there. And so he's been taking the lumps when the team has come up short. You kind of see him basically taking on some of the responsibility. It's not a pretty sight in the locker room, in those post-game press conferences and interviews. You can really tell that he really takes it on the chin when they lose, and obviously he really basks in it when they do win. So Larkin has the experience. He's leading this team, trying to really lead them into the postseason for the first time in 10 seasons. So we'll see how that pans out for him. And if I were to stand up, you would see the number 71 across my back in Larkin. So the captain in the spotlight, and deservedly so. We'll see if he keeps up with more points in this streak, and hopefully it translates into more victories for the Red Wings. Now, seeing as how there wasn't a game to review and to recap, this edition of the No Cap Recap is going to go back a couple of weeks. I'm going to take a couple of different occurrences in which there was a post-game press conference to really discuss some of the funnier factors. Now, if you haven't tuned into No Cap Recap, what I do is I take a moment from a post-game press conference, whether it be a player, coach, manager, even a broadcaster, and basically transcribe it and read it off to you. But then what I do is I throw it in the AI slang translator and see what comes out the other end. So a couple of weeks ago, during the West Coast road trip, the Red Wings faced off against the Kings, and they'd given up 2 late goals in the third period, and it seemed like Kevin Fiala in overtime had scored the game winner against Talbot. What had actually happened was, since it was in overtime, it was a reviewable goal. Didn't even need to be a challenge. Turns out he was in the crease. They overturned the goal. Red Wings have second life. They end up winning in the shootout. Talbs makes all 3 of the saves in the shootout. So he comes away with a W. In his interview that night, and this is what I love, especially a quote like this. So here's Talbs. I made it down the hallway, and truth be told, my stick didn't make it down the hallway. It was in a few pieces, and I heard Todd say, "Hold on, Talbs, we're going to challenge it." So we all funneled back into the tunnel there. I knew Kev came right through my crease there, and I was kind of spun. I was hoping for that call, and we got it. Throwing that into the AI translator, we got, I hauled butt down the hall, but TBH, my twig didn't make it. It was snapped into a bunch of pieces, and I heard Todd yell, "Hold up, Talbs, we're going to chirp about that." So we all dipped back into the tunnel thingy. I knew Kev straight up bulldozed my crease, and I was kind of tripping. I was hoping for that call, and we actually got it, fam. and kudos to Talbs also. 2-0 in the shootout. The 2 shootouts he's participated in this season, and 7 for 7 on saves. That's some pretty good numbers to carry. And that was kind of the up mood for No Cap Recap. But the down mood, I'd have to say, was when the Red Wings came back home after that 5-game road trip and took on the Rangers during the Centennial weekend. It was a weekend. There was a lot of hype going on around Detroit. It was the first time to really kind of take into account the fact that the Red Wings have been in the league for 100 years. There was a lot of alumni around: Fedorov, Shanahan, Lidstrom, all the household names of the Red Wings that won 4 Stanley Cups during that run from between '97 and 2008. So there was a lot of distraction, I would say, for the Red Wings players themselves to really kind of have to take on another original six team in that moment where we're talking about the 100 years. You got Hall of Famers just sitting there looking on. So obviously a distraction, and I'd say the Red Wings handled it like it was a distraction because they lost 4-1. McClellan, following that loss, said this: "No excuses. I thought as the night rolled out, the start was fairly good. We give up a goal that is part of the pre-scout. An hour before we went on the ice, we talked about that exact situation and we make a mistake. So now we're down by one. We're chasing the game. Right now, they're sitting at the best defensive record in the league. You're already down by one. That's not a real good thing, but we work our way back into the game. Even at 2-1 in the third period, we have a chance at a point, at least. We have a chance at taking it to overtime. We didn't even get an opportunity to use our minutes up. Two very preventable goals, especially the fourth one. Sometimes you're there physically, which tonight I thought we were for the most part. I'm not sure we were between the ears again, and that includes offensively. We had some pretty good opportunities. Yes, Jonathan Quick made some great saves, but when you're sharp and you're alert and you're attentive, some of those go in for you. The power play is a prime example." Let's throw that into the AI translator and see what McClellan sounds like with the skibbity. "No cap, no excuses. I ain't gonna lie, the start was kind of bussin'. Then we choked up a goal we peeped in the pre-scout. An hour before we hit the ice, we yapped about that exact sitch, and we still fumble. So now we're down one. We're straight up chasing the bag, bet. They're rocking the best D in the whole damn league. Being one down ain't it, but we claw our way back. Even at 2-1 in the third, we could have snatched a point at least. OT was on the table, but nah, didn't even get to sweat it out. 2 goals were totally avoidable, especially the fourth. Sometimes you're there physically, feel like we were tonight, mostly, but mentally we were ghosting, and that includes on offense. We had some fire chances. Yeah, Quick pulled off some clutch saves, but if we were locked in, some would have hit. The power play, straight up example." Now, McClellan's obviously given a little bit of a scolding to the Red Wings, obviously, since, and that includes the overtime loss to the Buffalo Sabres. But like I'd mentioned already before, the Red Wings are in first place with 2 games in hand against the Bruins. So with these next 4 out of 5 being at home, a couple of games where you think they definitely should win as far as what's on paper, get those 2 points in those games when you can get them. Because somewhere throughout the season, you're going to sit there and wonder why you didn't get one here or there. You may pick up a couple of unexpected points here or there, and you may lose a couple of unexpected points here or there. But all the same, the Red Wings are looking solid. They're atop the Atlantic Division. First time they've been atop the division this far into the season in quite a long time. So it looks like Larkin is trying to get a little bit of that magic and to start that postseason appearance clock back at 1 come April, and we'll see if that happens. So this has been Red Wings Daily here from the Pacific Northwest, as I like to say, LGRW from the PNW. This has been presented by FanArch, and I bid you adieu, and go Red Wings.